Hello guys, my name is Sergey. I am a freediving instructor trainer at Crystal Freediving. It is a freediving school on the island Ko Tao in Thailand. And today I want to talk with you guys about the buoyancy for freediving, more specifically buoyancy for the open water session. But before we start guys, if you see me for the first time ever, it means you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, so please do it right now. Subscribe to my channel and then you will see a lot of useful videos about freediving, some freediving information, freediving training tips, and sometimes I do freediving products review. So if you're new to my channel, please subscribe. If you already done it, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate the time which you spend by watching my videos. Okay, buoyancy for open water session. So first of all, why buoyancy is so important for freediving? It doesn't matter for the pool session or for the open water session. If you're not correct buoyant, it means you're gonna spend much more energy, let's say in a pool covering the same distance or in an open water session. And because we as a freedivers want to save as much energy as possible, we want to be correctly buoyant, right? So there is a three state of buoyancy, three type of buoyancy. First, positive buoyancy. Positive buoyancy. So freediver is positive buoyant when he is floating on the surface. So he's not sinking, he's lying on the surface, and this is a positive buoyancy. Or let's say freedivers need to be positive buoyant, let's say at 5 meters, and from 5 meters he's going to float up if he's not kicking or not pulling. So this is a positive buoyancy. The next buoyancy is a neutral buoyancy. Let's say if freediver 10 meters have a neutral buoyancy, he's not sinking and he's not floating. So he's just hanging there at 10 meters without moving. And then the last buoyancy is a negative buoyancy. It is when freediver, let's say at 20 meters, he's not kicking, he's not pulling the line, he's just falling down. So this is a negative buoyancy. Different people, different freedivers have a different buoyancy. It depends on a lot of things. So first of all, of course, your buoyancy depends on the type of the wetsuit which you have. If let's say you have a 7mm wetsuit, then you're going to be really buoyant. And if you have a 1mm wetsuit, you're going to be less buoyant. How to compensate this buoyancy? You can have a weight belt with the different weights, or you can have a neck weight, again with the different weights. So first thing for the buoyancy is a wetsuit. Also is your body structure. So if let's say for example you have more fat, then you're going to be much more buoyant compared to let's say a skinny person, because different body tissues have a different density. Bones is much more denser than the water, and then this is why the skinny person tend to sink, and fat is less buoyant than water. This is why the person who have more fat is going to float up more easily. So this is why different people have a different buoyancy. Okay, how are we going to check the buoyancy? So first of all, on the surface you want to be positive buoyant. It means on the surface, you're lying on the surface before you dive or when you finish your dive and you're not sinking. The reason is before you dive or after you just finish your dive, you want to rest, right? So before you dive, you want to rest, have a right mindset, and then start your dive. And when you finish your dive, you're probably a little bit tired, you need to recover from your dive, and you don't want to spend energy to, let's say, by kicking or by holding the buoy. You need to hold the buoy anyway, but you don't want to spend too much energy to stay on the surface. So this is why you want to be positive buoyant. You want to be not just positive buoyant on the surface, you want to be positive buoyant even after passive exhale. So what does it mean passive? Let's say how you checking buoyancy on the surface. You do inhale, passive exhale, and then you still need to be positive buoyant. Why? If the worst case scenario happens and freediver lost his conscious on the way up, shallow water blackout happens, the freediver still want to be positive on the surface. In this case, the whole rescue procedure is going to be much more easy to do, right? So this is why you want to be positive buoyant on the surface even after passive exhale. So then let's say what your buoyancy should be on the first few meters. You still want to be positive buoyant. Why? Because when you're finishing your dive, when you're coming up from your dive, on the last few meters you want to save the energy, because this is the most risky time because if freediver have a shallow water blackout, it usually happens on the ascent. This is why sometimes you can call it blackout on the ascent. And this is why during your ascent, during the last 5-10 meters, you want your ascent be as easy as possible. You want to float up to the surface, or you want to glide a lot between your kicks or between your pools. So somewhere here you want to be positive buoyant as well. Then at certain depths, let's say 10 meters, you want to be neutral buoyant. Again, like I said in the beginning of the video, you don't want to sink, you don't want to float up. How you check it? Let's say you're diving to 10 meters, you grab the line like this. It means you're not holding, because if you're holding, you're obviously gonna stay, right? So you're holding, like you make a circle with your fingers, and then you keeping it around the line, and then you see if you are floating up or if you're going down, right? Right? And if you are just staying, this means that you have a natural buoyancy at these depths. At what depths you want to be natural buoyant? About 8, 10, maybe 11 meters. Again, it depends how deep you're planning to dive, if you're experienced freedivers, but for the beginner and intermediate freediver, the good beginning is to be neutral buoyant at 10 meters. So at 10 meters you're neutral buoyant. And then you want to be negative buoyant at some depths as well. Why? Because if, let's say, you're planning to dive to 30 meters, you don't want to kick all the way down. You want to save your energy, and this is why after you pass neutral buoyancy, you're gonna start falling, or we call it free falling. And this is one of the best part of open water dive. When you pass your neutral buoyancy, you're gonna kick a couple of times more, and then you're just free falling. And it's possible only if you are negative buoyant. And then you reach your 20 meters, you start your way up. In the beginning, because you're negative buoyant, you're gonna need to spend a little bit more energy, but then when you pass again neutral buoyancy on your way up, then the last maybe 5 or 6 meters, you can just float up, or like I said, glide a lot between your kicks or between your pools. So guys, like I said, how to check your buoyancy. First of all, you want to check it on the surface. Even after passive exhale, you want to be on the surface, you want to float on the surface. If you start sinking after passive exhale, remove the weights. And then you want to check your buoyancy about 10 meter deep, maybe 9 meter deep. You want to stay there without floating up or sinking down, right? So you want to be neutral. A little tip, don't start free falling. We don't want to spend too much time talking about free falling in this video, but don't start free falling too early. Let's say if you pass 10 meters, technically you become a negative buoyant, and technically this is the time when your free falling can start. But if you start your free falling, let's say at 11 meters, in the beginning it's gonna be really slow free fall. So this is why, if let's say you're neutral at 10 meters and you're planning to dive to 20, I don't recommend to start free falling shallow, let's say, than 15 meters, right? And then if you start after 15, your free fall is going to be a little bit more comfortable, not super slow motion, right? Okay guys, this is it. This is all what I was thinking to talk about buoyancy for today. So one more time, 3 states of buoyancy: positive buoyancy, neutral buoyancy, and negative buoyancy. You want to be positive buoyant on the surface, even after passive exhale. You want to be neutral buoyant about 10 meter deep, and then when you're going deeper, you can start free falling because you're going to be negative buoyant. Okay, so I hope you're going to find some useful information in this video, and if you found it, don't forget to click the like button. It means a lot for me. I really appreciate when you do it. And If you have anything to say, please leave it in comments. Okay? See you next time.